Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final day of the Heroic League Season 5. This is FOF. I am War Leader, and joining me, my friend across the ocean, is Lolo.
War Leader, we've made it. It's the final day of the regular season. Unbelievable. And still, the standings are not fixed. Particularly, Baby on the right-hand side, Team Beat Boop, they are fighting in a three-way tie for first. Moreover, yourselves will be playing for fourth and fifth later tonight. There's a lot to contention to be played for in these games. But to begin with, let's see what's kicking off here. We've got some comfort bands being taken off the table.
Yeah, making sure to take Thresh away from Antunes. Trying to take that comfort away from the bot lane is going to be pretty important because Beat Boop does have a different roster for this game. Instead of Luru in that bot lane, they will have Jaffe, their top laner, and as a result, they brought in Hyakimaru, who we've seen previously in this season, I believe, was on New Wave Tsunami.
Yeah.
So excited to see them back in action, excited to see what Jaffe pulls out in the bottom lane, and excited to see that Volibear will not be taking part in this game of League of Legends.
And that surprises me, War Leader. You are definitely a Volibear enjoyer from what I've seen from you previously. But nevertheless, Dax is 100% on it so far in the regular season. Likewise with that core key, P-Sweezy is 5-0 on it in the regular season so far. So Art of War saying, no, we don't want to deal with any of these picks that you seem to be absolutely smurfing on. On the other side, a couple of Seaborg's mid picks that he's looked extremely strong on, the Cassiopeia and the Kiana being taken off the table now. That Nautilus being locked in for a Riri, which has definitely been his, again, a lot of comfort so far. It's been his go-to so far this split, but we are seeing a set that is definitely a first, I think, entirely for Baby this season.
Yeah, and I really like the set here because it's a flex between Hyakimaru in the top lane, potentially even P-Sweezy in the mid lane, as well as maybe showing us something new for Antunes into that Nautilus Art of War, trying to pinch that support pool, getting rid of the Thresh, taking the Nautilus, trying to challenge Antunes to pick Blitzcrank, but we'll have to see if Antunes opts into that. Meanwhile, Xayah is going to be locked in for Art of War Esports.
Yes, Xayah, and we are going to be seeing a Trundle being locked in as well, potentially as trying to counter-gank what could be extremely aggressive play from Dax in the jungle on this Jarvan, which is what he has deferred to when he's not been allowed his bear. I would be interested to see, we might be seeing, I'm not sure, that makes a lot more sense. I was going to say, I'll be interested to see if P-Sweezy, with the Corki being taken away, whether he can play something like an Ahri. It's not something we've seen so far from him in the regular season, but we have seen, particularly in the last couple of weeks, how deadly that combination can be. But nevertheless, it is going to be a Jhin with Jaffe going on something, I think, as safe as possible, given that he's off roll.
Yeah, and Jhin is very much complementary damage to a team, has a lot of long-range follow-up CC and damage to go with the diving of the set and the Jarvan, so I think it's a good complementary play, and P-Sweezy's been also very good on this follow-up dive, so I think we're starting to see what Beat Boop wants to do as we get to the second phase of bans. Meanwhile, Art of War Esports kind of put themselves in a very generic composition, I think. Trundle and Nautilus really pivot into any composition, and Xayah is just an ADC that actually has some agency for herself. So maybe looking towards Yan to be a big playmaker and try and be safe from this dive composition that Beat Boop's been forming.
See, this Silas ban really fascinates me, War Leader, because again, Art of War aren't convinced by the set. As you said, it is a flex pick. They're still not quite sure what Hyakimaru might be taking up there in the top lane. Maybe Antunes is going to sit on this set in the bot lane. And that Silas ban says to me that maybe they do want to lock something in like a Malphite, like maybe even a Zillion for P-Sweezy, something that he's going to counter completely with his hijack ability. So I think we should be taking care of what Baby might want to flex around with this draft. But in the meantime, they are going to continue to try to limit Seaborg's champion pool as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Beat Boop are the ones banning the Vygar. I think I know that they really like to play it, especially when they have Luru in that bot side, who is quite effective on that champion in the bottom lane. But going to take that away, very good counter dive champion, very good at controlling choke points, so makes sense to take that away from your dive composition, and we're going to have to see, I would imagine this is probably going to be the mid lane pick so they can hide their flex for a little longer. Yeah, and it looks like it might even be Zed. It is going to be Zed, the lock in for P-Sweezy.
That's very, very exciting. That is a complete change to what we have seen from him so far. We have seen a little bit of Yasuo, but it is, aside from that, it's been poke, it's been control mage, it's not been this assassin. And this is something which, I mean, it's not known necessarily to work in. It's double AD in the mid jungle. If this is supposedly going to be a P-Sweezy lock-in here, on the other side, that is a very, very quick set of B4 and B5 from Art of War. And now we really have to scratch our heads and say, is Oriri a carrier enjoyer? Is he locking in an Echo support? Are we going to be seeing something, completely switched around here? Probably not, but I would love to see it potentially. And on the other side, that just leaves us scratching our heads a little bit more. But I think it's probably going to be Hyakimaru sitting on this Kennen. Great combination with the Jarvan, of course, with the Cataclysm combination as well as the Showstopper. So a pretty good team fight setup potentially for Team Baby. On the other side, we've got an awful lot of ultimates, which I think they didn't want the Sylas hijacking. That explains the ban quite well.
Yeah, I think both of these teams really want a team fight. Nocturne is an absolutely incredible champion when you're trying to shut down enemy dive and enemy wombo. Just turning off the lights, making it really hard for them to coordinate their play is something that I really love. I also really like Nocturne into a lot of the meta picks like Jarvan. And I think from Beat Boot makes a lot of sense. As soon as you know that Trundle's going topside, lock in that cannon. Trundle will not have tank stats to suck in laning phase. Throw that set in the bot lane. And let's see how this gets done as we get towards the Rift. I'm really interested to see how this goes down because as we look at range, I do think that Art of War Esports does have an advantage in terms of the range on their composition, the amount of, and specifically the range of their engage, both with Echo's W slowing field into him getting in, the Nautilus longest hook in the game, the Nocturne obviously can get in from many screens away. So both of these teams really want to just get on top of the other and have ways of dealing with both. And it'll be interesting to see how these teams tackle each other with very similar game plans.
Of course, yeah. And I think as we jump into game very, very shortly, I would also like to just note that I think Jaffe, who's been put on this Jhin that we thought was going to be a fairly safe pick, really is going to be in a bit of the Xayah. By comparison, is able to self-peel from quite a lot of the potential engage that Baby have, but Jaffe's got very little. And whilst his team, the set can peel for him a little bit potentially, Zax if he does try to lock down a target, there's an awful lot of assassin here, particularly that paranoia you mentioned, as well as the Echo from which is most likely going to be piloted by Seaborg. Things that can just jump on him if he tries to engage from long range for them. So yeah, he's really going to have his work cut out for him. I think, as you said, Art of War, they definitely have ways of pulling the trigger which can try to slow down Baby's combination with all of these ultimates. So yeah, very, very interesting to see what's going to happen here. But obviously, Baby favored just as a team overall in the season. They are vying for a top spot, and this is crucial for them in order to stay in the running for that first place bye. So they've got a lot of what to play for here. They definitely don't want to be giving anything up. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, and now Art of War was planning on coming into this game having to fight for their last playoff spot, but unfortunately our next game, New Wave Tsunami, not able to get their team together. So good news for Art of War Esports, they've already locked in their playoff berth, which unfortunately makes this game maybe a little less interesting than it could have been with both teams fighting for something really important. But Art of War really want to hit the ground running when it comes to playoffs and show that they can brawl with the top teams. One of the aspects of the playoff bracket is that one of the top teams gets to choose who they go against going into the semifinal round. And so if Art of War Esports can do some real damage to Beat Boop here, they might be avoiding one of the tougher opponents. So it's always important in these kinds of games to look your best and show everything you've got, because if you can dissuade the number one seed from picking you, then it can do some real damage. And taking down Beat Boop would dissuade really anyone from picking them.
Of course, and Art of War, I mean, they have the advantage as well, as that they have got their entire starting roster, which is something that Baby don't in this instance. I did highlight, I think there might be some weak points potentially for Baby here. We've seen Hyakimaru once in the regular season so far on the Gangplank. He did end up taking a loss in that game. We've obviously not seen anything out of his Kennen. Maybe Art of War want to target their top lane potentially, because Slowbro has looked like a real point of strength for this team. in the regular season, and therefore, that's something they may wish to play around, particularly when we have a fairly, I mean, it's a bot lane that can fight, but of course it has quite a lot of self-sustain as well, particularly as I mentioned, that Xayah with being able to self-heal. So I think whether they do want to, particularly, obviously Crims is on something that wants to farm up, but with Slowbro on what is most likely a Trundle top, we haven't seen, of course, the assignments yet, but it is something that can apply a lot of pressure early against this Kennen, particularly if he's got his jungler in proximity. Dax most likely looking to potentially match that. We'll see what happens, or whether he wants to just play around his bot lane. But just to note, folks, that we have got a little bit of a pause, so we are just going to be waiting just a few more moments before we get into game. But War Leader, because at some point, I mean, yourselves as well are locked in to playoffs already, although you are still vying for, with Wash, I believe, 4th and 5th. Who would you be more scared of, particularly out of these drafts? And also, who are you really scared of as it goes into playoffs? Who do you want to beat as well?
Between these drafts, I think Art of Wars is a little easier to play. I think a lot goes on in this mid lane between P-Sweezy and Seaborg on Echo and Zed, both champions that have a lot of playmaking potential, and I think how the early lane goes in mid lane could determine how these team fights at least start. Meanwhile, looking at the broader playoff picture, I think Beat Boop is absolutely the scariest team in the league, and this is definitely something new for them to try, and I think this is the perfect time to try it. You're into a team that's at the lower end of the table, but is still going to give you good competition. Try something different and get the ball rolling, really. Going into playoffs, if Beat Boop end up with one of those top spots, they are going to have 2 weeks of off time before they get into their playoff games in semifinals. Then definitely want to make sure you stay warm, and that means getting the new stuff out now and making sure it's good into good opponents. And Art of War esports have definitely been stepping up as of late, so we're going to have to see how that goes. I definitely favor Beat Boop as far as, like, if I had to pick one team most likely to win it all that isn't RLS, I'd pick Team Beat Boop. I think it looks really solid.
After RLS, obviously, because, this is your year, of course, War Leader.
It's always my year.
Of course. I am very excited to see RLS in play. I'm so excited to see all of these teams in playoffs, but I do agree. I mean, Baby, it is a new team. They have looked incredibly strong throughout the regular split. They as far off as we cast our minds back to play-ins, where they did actually take that win over UB and finish in the top. Obviously, they did lose the head-to-head after that, and it's been a little bit of a back and forth. They've dropped a game here and there, as have all the top teams. I think what's interesting about this draft is, as you said, it is a little bit different from their normal style. But particularly, we are seeing P-Sweezy on an assassin. We've seen him on Corki duty primarily. He's done his Corki duty exceptionally well. It has been banned out, but maybe he said to the team, "Look, we've already hit that. Sort of that top 3 spot. I'm chilling right now. I want to show a little bit of a different, spicier side of myself." But it does mean they are going against their grain a little bit and maybe jeopardizing that potential first spot they could be playing for. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're saying, look, we'll beat everyone in playoffs anyway. But nevertheless, let's hold that thought, because we are about to jump into this first game of the final day.
Yeah, and something, maybe a story to keep track of throughout this one is that if AWE were to not get a first-round bye, they would end up as the 3rd seed, and they would play the 6th seed, which happens to be locked in for AWE. So maybe this is a little bit of a preview as we see a little bit of mastery flashing on the side of Baby, trying to sniff out a little bit of an invade, but it means that Crim's actually going to get down the early vision in the enemy jungle. Unbeknownst to the members of Baby, they are now on vision, and they know where Dax is going to start this game.
And I think they'll be expecting potentially him to be moving down towards the spot lane, because Antunes Jaffe here, they've got a lot of setup for him. If he does want to, move down and potentially try to punish Yornion and Oriri, who expects to be playing relatively aggressive early. Well, on the other side, we are seeing junglers not matching themselves, mismatched jungling, so Crims potentially looking to, as we suspected, put a lot of resources into Slowbro, who has been so strong for them in the regular season, and try to punish Yakimaru, who is a bit of an unknown and they consider a little bit maybe of a weak point. We'll have to see what happens. One more thing I'd like to ask you, War Leader, is out of these two teams, which do you think is going to look better on a hoodie?
On a hoodie? I think an Art of War inspired hoodie would be really, really sick, to be honest. Any sort of team that ends up on the merch is going to be good. And if you want to check out the merch that we have, you can go to FFS5sports.com/merch. So you see Antunes attempt to go for that face breaker, not quite going to find it.
No, not quite. They are going to be given the push early, are Jaffe and Antunes, so that is going to buy a little bit of time. They do have to be careful, though, because they were aware that Dax, of course, was starting on his red buff. In fact, he's gone to have a little look at Crim's blue, and because he's been so quick with that, he has actually been managed to nick it away. So he's anticipated that with, this early priority that this Kennen has been able to get, that actually he's nicked that away, and Crims is going to be feeling a little bit miffed about that when he gets up to his blue in a second, because he managed to sneak that right from under his nose.
Yeah, and that's something you can do on something with the early power that this Jarvan has, right? If Jarvan runs into a level 2 Nocturne on camps, doesn't matter. Jarvan's pretty happy to fight that Nocturne, not having too much in early game power, although lethal tempo could make it scary. So able to take that away, and it's going to deny Nocturne that really quick early clear. And now both junglers aimed at top side. Nocturne's going to be looking for a gank. Jarvan going to be in prime position to counter, but Jaffe may be in a little bit of trouble. Antunes is roaming up towards that mid side. Dax looking for Crims in the jungle. Flag and Drag is there, but it is spell shielded. Well played by Crims.
Yeah, and Oriri had an opportunity. Of course, the minions were blocking a little bit, but Jaffe was definitely stepping up quite far, considering that his support was warding there. Of course, a reminder that, he is playing ADC. It's not his normal role, so perhaps he's not quite aware of being as vulnerable as an ADC normally is, but nevertheless, he doesn't get punished for it, so that's good stuff for them. And likewise, Crims, he does get caught out in the jungle, but nothing so far yet. We're still sitting on tender hooks to see who's going to be able to get the first advantage.
Yeah, it looks like Seaborg's looking for that advantage, finding half of P-Sweezy's health. P-Sweezy maybe going a little too deep, wanting more, not going to find it for either party. P-Sweezy taking quite low, potentially in a night range, as Dax is looking for Yan in the bottom side. They're looking for a play. Antunes flash forward, Facebreaker hits 2. The follow-up from Jin is there. Jarvan holding Flag and Drag for the flash, but doesn't want to quite dive under that tower. But now he does. Tries to find Yan, doesn't quite hit. Haymaker goes out, a lot of damage done to Oriri, and he wants to re-engage, hook onto Dax. Jin W is going to miss, and everybody's going to walk out alive just barely.
Jeez, and just Crim's not able to make any response to that, but that is all of Art of War's summoners burned. Jaffe's sitting pretty, he's still got his flash and heal, so that is a bit of an advantage, particularly with Antunes on the Hex Flash as well. So now I think Yorion and Oriri do have to be a little bit careful, because Dax has already shown that he's willing to take that early initiative compared to Crims, and he could very happily walk back down for a regank if they were to try anything else. So they are actually going to have to back away a little bit, I think, take themselves a base instead.
And as these first few waves have now gone and been farmed, we can start to look at how these laning phases are shaking up in terms of gold. Pretty small advantage towards P-Sweezy on Zed mid lane. It's going to be nice to see. Jaffe has accumulated a pretty solid gold lead, thanks in part to the pressure from Dax. And Slowbro able to establish a little bit of lead in that top side, just about 3 CS.
Yeah, nothing. But of course, with Hyakimaru on that Kennen, the ranged advantage, being able to establish priority early. Now it does look like Dax is actually thinking maybe he wants to apply a little bit of pressure up there himself. He's going to go and sit on his Krugs to begin with, but I think he is looking at Slowbro, because as you said, Slowbro's got the rebound here, and if Hyakimaru doesn't continue the advantage, his wave is pushing actually towards Slowbro, but nevertheless, Dax might just continue to look him because he thinks Crims might have his eye on top lane as well.
I had my eye on Crims there. I was maybe looking for enemy Krugs, but without Seaborg in that mid lane, doesn't quite feel like going for it, and doesn't quite know where Baby's vision is going to be. Potentially lost opportunity, but safer play overall. Don't want to give first blood over to the Zed. We're now 7 minutes into this game without first blood going over, but Dax and P-Sweezy are looking for a top dive. The Zed ult is online, and Crims is in the area. Do they see it in time? Crims is walking up, Dax Flying Drag goes wide. Zed Deathmark on top of Slowbro is going to not quite pop him. First blood over to Crims, who gets up there. P-Sweezy gets executed by the tower. Botched dive from Baby. Now Slowbro is going to try and get to the CS. Crims trying to protect, but Hyakimaru can do a pretty good job of pressuring it out. Paranoia, though, up for Crims. and that cannon ultimate is down, so they can potentially look for an engage as Slowbro gets a little more HP from that passive, that King's Tribute from these minions just dying around, and we're going to have to see if they want to go for it. Now, Slowbro wants to go back to base, utilize that teleport, catch the wave, but they are going to pop the Paranoia. Kennan's going to Lightning Bolt out, but Paranoia is in. The Fear is down. Will Crims have enough damage to take out Hyakimaru? Hyakimaru retreating towards the turret. Already burned Flash. Stun comes through onto Crims, but that Shadow Claw is going to take down the Lightning Rodent.
A little bit of hesitation there from Crims for a second, but ultimately he does go into Hyakimaru. He gets his Flash as well. Spell Shields are the perfect time to set himself up with that additional attack speed and just enough to take him out with the Q finally as well. So that's First Blood going, well, not First Blood, but that's going to put Crims 2-0 already. He's actually looking pretty stacked up after those earlier plays. And yeah, as you said, War Leader, that dive we go back to. A lot of confidence shown from Baby that they definitely overstepped the mark there and they put themselves at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I think those are the kind of plays that if you're a top-of-the-table team looking to pressure your opponents, those are the kind of plays you have to make. Unfortunately, Dax not quite landing that flag and drag does make the dive very difficult, and I don't think Baby were ready to call it off in time as soon as they missed that. Thought they'd have enough CC, thought they'd have enough damage, but Slowbro, too tanky after stripping stats, even from just this level 5 Jarvan.
Indeed, yeah, the Subjugate does mean that he's got an awful lot more staying power in lane, and that is going to, even so, I mean, it is actually going to, with the resets coming through after all of that, net Dax and a Herald as well. So, even so, after that botch dive, they are still managing to maintain prior on the map. Crims, however, does look like he might be looking at bot lane, trying to trade up for the Drake.
Yeah, and it is going to trade up for the Drake, but honestly losing quite a bit of potential momentum in terms of getting those camps cleared. Dax going to be able to full clear this top side if he wants to. Should have a pretty good idea where AWE is, and it means that Crims is going to fall quite far behind in terms of CS. Actually, I thought I knew the name of that. Curtain Call, there we go, from Jaffe. Looking for that Drake, not quite going to find it. And that first map Drake is going to go over to AWE, and they find themselves just about even in terms of gold despite the 2 kills.
Yeah, just about even in terms of gold. Hold on.
Oh, big trade, Antunes Ignite, the showstopper there in on Yon gonna force the flash. Meanwhile, dive is on in the top side, and that Maelstrom is going to find Slowbro. Finally, the dive works. Antunes flashing forward to find Yon, but Ariri's here for the revenge kill. He knows where Antunes is. The sweeper is on. Antunes has nowhere to go. Trade kill back over to the support, but Antunes is probably going to be much happier with the CS than he get into his ADC. Paranoia comes in over on the top side, trying to counter the Herald play top. Dax is going to flag and drag out of there. Seaborg on top of Hyakimaru. Nowhere to go for the cannon. Now falls once again, but P. Sweezy tries to delete Seaborg. Gonna force out that chrono break. And oh my goodness, this is an action-packed one.
It is. I mean, no one's slowing down after that dive. They go for it again. They do manage to get the kill onto Slowbro, whereas in the bot side, Antunes doing what he does best and applying so much pressure. Yes, he does trade 1-for-1, but crucially, he completely denies Yon the wave. We're seeing a big CS lead building up here for Jaffe in the bot side, who's, just happy to let Antunes make all these plays for him, and that's hopefully going to net them a bit more of an advantage early on. Yeah, Baby, even though, a little bit of a setback or two early on, they're not slowing down, and that's what we will expect to see from a top team.
Absolutely. Dax putting out immense pressure, and now that things have calmed down a little bit, we are going to see Crims catch back up in terms of CS. So overall, not too much was lost, but Jarvan still has that entire bot side. He can go and clear. P-Sweezy looking for Slowbro in the top side. Deathmark is up, Ignite is up. Here comes the Deathmark, going to find 1 Q only. The Ignite is down, and the Deathmark, doesn't quite get Slowbro, but a well-placed Shuriken from Hyakimaru is going to take that down, and surely that'll be the top tower. Meanwhile, Seaborg looking for plates in the mid lane. Doesn't realize that Antunes is here, but barely doesn't commit to that just in time to get out of there. I feel like Antunes just made it a little longer. Hariri flash forward, doesn't find Jaffe with the hook, but the depth charge will always. Now Hariri taking 3 tower shots, and the curtain call is out. Hariri and Yon dodge all this. No, Hariri does drop to the curtain call.
Oh, Jaffe with the fancy feet, he dodges the hook. Oh my god!
Stopper! Oh, the phaser misses Yon, who's able to retreat. Jaffe not able to hit with a W, but the Cataclysm will find Yon. Dax taking a couple tower shots, but Crims not quite having that paranoid cooldown. Just came up now. If it was up 3, seconds earlier,
Seaborg
would have been able to secure that kill onto Dax, and looking to path a little bit away, Seaborg looking to maybe get a revenge kill onto Jaffe here now, maybe pushing too far up safely as we're watching Dax clear this crop. No, Seaborg not going to find the engage onto that ADC. Jaffe doing a pretty good job substituting in for Luru this game.
He is. He's playing that. He's playing the gym perfectly. Yeah, he's obviously holding on to a lot of pressure. He completely avoids the dive. Beautifully played there from him. It does cost him a splash, but it's more than enough. He trades back. Well, he doesn't even trade back. He nets positive with the curtain call. Beautiful stuff there from him. And Antunes and Dax are there to follow up and make that a positive play overall for the side of Baby. They are building themselves a 1K gold lead after those, initial mistakes, and it's actually an even kill count now. There is still a Drake lead for the side of Art of War, and a second Drake maybe on the cards for them soon. They are looking at the river right now. It might be they meet there.
Yeah, it's a relatively even game state. Really, the only difference is which objectives these teams went for. There is a Mountain Drake for the side of AWE, and there's 1,000 gold from that top tower for the side of Baby. So it's a matter of if Baby can accelerate that gold lead to stop the dragon stacking, then that initial early trade will have become worthwhile for them. Seaborg, I thought Antunes was gonna go in, but Antunes is just doing a nice little visit over in that middle lane. A Riri trying to out the wards in that bot side river. 40 seconds until this Drake is up. Oh, Slowbro finds a nice pillar under Yakimaru, forcing out that Maelstrom, and Slowbro is not done. The troll smacks so fast, but Yakimaru is a fast little rat. The flash forward from Slowbro is going to match with the boss code, but Cannon is out for now. Meanwhile, Seaborg in a lot of trouble. The Deathmark comes out, and Seaborg forced to use the Chrono Break. The Paranoia comes down. Meanwhile, on the bot side gets Jaffe. Well-executed dive from AEW on the top side. Slowbro still chasing for Yakimaru. The pillar pushes Cannon just out of tower range, but going to have to walk into that one. Oh my goodness, and we're still fighting in the bot side. Antunes looking for Yan, not quite going to find her. Riri picking up that one. And overall, my goodness, it's 1-4-3. AWE being the profiteers of that one, going to be able to march over to that Drake. Should be theirs, no contest. Dax is looking for Slowbro on the top side, but the Hullbreaker Trundle's not so easy. Going to try and find the flag and drag anyway on top of Slowbro, but I don't think you can ever fight this in the middle of the minion wave. Cataclysm does come down, does so much damage, but the Troll does so much with that lethal tempo. No, it is going to be Dax finding Slowbro at the end of the day, and maybe we can breathe.
What? You said it yourself, Wally, that they're not slowing down. Action all across the map. Slowbro chasing Yakimaru into his tier 3. Absolutely relentless pursuits from the troll. On the other side, we are seeing, Antunes fighting 3 people. Giga Chad, he doesn't manage to take anyone, but credit to him. And overall, a second Drake going over to Art of War. And as you said, they do net themselves a kill advantage as well. Crims is gigantic now, and he really needs to continue to make his presence heard because Dax is sort of matching him. He's only 1 kill down, and the items are he's actually ahead because he's based. So, and he's the one who seems to be, really being proactive. Yes, Crims does manage to shut down the bot lane on the other side, but still, I think now that he is so far ahead, he needs to be the one to really pull the trigger and make some make things happen for his team, because the rest of his team a little bit behind at this point.
Have to agree, as we're starting to see a standoff in the mid lane. Yan, without having that ultimate up, is a little fragile, but Flash and Exhaust should keep them safe for the few more seconds it takes for that cooldown to get up. And we're seeing Dax able to get a lot of camps in the enemy jungle, even though Crims is so strong. We're seeing a little bit of superior macro from the side of Baby is going to keep them with a solid 1,000 gold lead as Dax continues to farm up the bottom side of the jungle. Crims now arriving to the scene. Paranoia is online. We're going to have to see if they want to take this.
Yeah, of course. He does have that go button. He does manage to get the smite. Yep. Clean from him.
Yeah, they're going to dive onto Seaborg, but here comes the Paranoia, here comes the Tempest, and Showstopper is going to be completely negated by Chrono Break. Paranoia, I really like that from Crims. You're not even close to the play. You just do that to try and disrupt the enemy, and now Seaborg should be relatively safe from the dive. Cooldowns expended for both teams. Curtain Call from Jaffe to try and thin that middle wave, only going to hit the big fat Nautilus. as we see Hyakimaru teleport into the mid lane and Slowbro taking a top tower very, very quickly.
And the whole of Baby are now rotating around the map after trying to make that play on Seaborg. As you said, great chrono break from him. The Paranoid coming through as well to deny them any follow-up because they don't know what's going on. So overall, no one's really netted a positive from that apart from Art of War. Slowbro did manage to go up and get himself a play. I think he is obviously a little bit of an advantage over Sweezy, even though Sweezy's got quite a lot of lethality. He's got that hull breaker. He's looking pretty solid, especially when he's got the Subjugate online. But now, there's a second Herald there. And
yeah, and Crims is caught by the Flag and Drag. Dax is in. The Cataclysm is down. Crims flashes out. P-Sweezy going to look for the Death Mark onto Crims, and Crims should drop shortly to that Death Mark. No! Barely no dies. Eventually to the Ignite, but is going to get traded back by Crims now. Death charges out onto Dax. Slowbro arriving to the fight. Pillar goes on the wrong side of Dax, but Antunes is in a world of hurt. The Haymaker will not find the true damage onto Yon Yon, although the Ignite will stick a lot of damage. And Dax limping out on very little HP. Well played fight from AWE to claw that one in their favor, and they should get a mid-turret for the troubles.
You know, one thing we saw from the Mythic lead last week is that you should not leave. If a troll enters the fight, you better be careful, because it's immediately his territory the moment he's there. And yeah, a little bit of an overstep. I do always respect Hyakimaru.
Oh, looking for the ultimate onto Seaborg. Seaborg maybe cut off a little more than he could chew. Has to burn that chrono break and is trying to limp away from the cannon. Shuriken goes wide. And the Time Winder is going to slow Hyakimaru down, but Seaborg maybe looking for more. Oh my goodness, looking for that parallel convergence. Not going to quite find out Hyakimaru, but looking for more damage. Seaborg, almost gets Hyakimaru. Both of these AP champions on very little HP, but Dax is the one that's arriving to the play in bot side, and due to that really heavy trading, both ultimates being traded, Dax is going to be the one to push this in. Parallel convergence looking out. Seaborg now doesn't have that. Dax finds the Flag and Drag onto Seaborg, going to take him out under that tower, forcing the teleport from Slowbro. Really well played, good trigger discipline by Dax to get that done.
These guys are low HP, and Antunes is there, but Jaffe just based, and there's a third Drake coming up in 30 seconds' time. It's sole point for the side of AWE, and they've coordinated their bases. They went and got that Herald, and it took a long time to take out Seaborg, and now they've got the tempo advantage.
Yeah, speaking of tempo, AWE Slowbro flashing forward on Hyakimaru, forcing that flashback. Blast Cone going to keep them safe for now as we see every single living member currently in the bot side. Hook from a Riri finds P-Sweezy, does not get a chance to get out of that CC. Going to drop, and now in the Tri-Bush there's a little bit of scariness going on for Antunes, who tries to Showstopper his way out of there. Jarvan trying to flash and drag out of there. Yon Yon going to flash follow up, going to find Dax. Meanwhile, on the other side, Slowbro in a little bit of trouble as Jaffe's arrived to the play. Fourth shot, taking down the troll. And overall, it is going to be 1-4-2 for the side of AWE. But importantly, they can pick up this Infernal Drake and get to Soul Point. Curtain Call, though, looking to get blocked by a Riri to make sure they don't get the steal. But the last shot does so much damage to Yon Yon. Flash forward from Antunes, tries to find the Haymaker. Not quite going to find it. Zaya becoming untargetable. And Antunes looking to drop the Seaborg, but Hyakimaru is so fast to the play. Lightning Tempest is here. And so much damage is going down onto everybody. But Jaffe is caught out in this 2v4. Riri the first one to drop. Jaffe barely holding on. Yon Yon going to take out the first one. Hyakimaru trading back. And Yon Yon finishing it off 2 for 2 on that. Oh my goodness, this game is so scrappy. Ultimately, though, it is AWE with the gold lead, and it's AWE on Infernal Soul Point.
It is. AWE will be so happy with that. Now, even though the gold is even, they've got themselves all the neutral objective advantages they could want, and Seaborg is coming up huge in this game, I will point out, because he's had so much pressure put on him, but he's come in. He makes him play 2 kills in that play, I believe, and overall, yeah, fantastic for the side of AWE. I think yes, Hyakimaru came in and fair play to him. He's really turning it up on this Kennen compared to what we saw from him on the GP previously, but it's not quite enough to win the fight there for Baby. And this is not what we expected, because obviously on paper, Baby are the ones they're the stronger team based on the regular season. But Art of War, even though we have seen some slightly better macro here and there from the side of Baby, just with the crucial moments where it's mattered, Art of War have been the one who've had the better hands on the day.
Yeah, it really feels like Dax is the only one really calling the shots, but Antunes is going to look for the facebreaker onto a Riri, but so tanky, Nautilus able to get out of there just fine. But yeah, the point I was going to make is that Dax seems to be the center for this team. Whenever Dax is at the play, it generally goes really well for them, aside for that one missed flag and drag over in the topside tower dive. In general, they play really well around this Jarvan, and when their jungler isn't there, the plays tend to go awry, and they do weird things like Hyakimaru running in to take that 2v4, which admittedly does trade 2 for 2. Antunes, little caught far forward, going to hook find from a Riri, but they're scared to go because of the pressure of Hyakimaru. Paranoia is going to make the curtain call very difficult for Jaffe to land, as Antunes is the first one to fall. Crims going in on that backline on Jaffe. Meanwhile, Yon in a lot of trouble from that Maelstrom, but oh my goodness, the Feather Call finds 2, and it's going all AWE right now. A Riri hook goes wide, but it doesn't matter. It's a clean 5-for-0 ace in a fight where AWE never had the Trundle. So Slowbro just keep hitting on the top side. AWE gets their pick of the map.
I mean, what can they get off of this? They can maybe look at the Baron. Their health bars are low. Slowbro's basically going to take an inhib off of this. That was, as you said, War Leader, 4v5. Yon, gigantic Featherstorm into the pullback and just shreds 2 people. And the Paranoia completely nullifying Jaffe as well. That was what we were worried about. And AWE, they execute beautifully. 4v5, and it's their game to win at this point.
Absolutely. That could be a decisive blow in terms of this one, as the gold lead has exploded now to 5,500 gold. 2 minutes till the Infernal Soul spawns. No Baron is going to be taken, so it's just going to be a massive gold lead. But when you're looking at a 5,500 gold lead, things get pretty tough, as we're going to start to see the backs coming through for these teams and see what kind of items they can pick up where the gold lead lies. For now, it's on Yon in that bot side on that Xayah.
Yeah, he's almost got the Cyrilda's Grudge on deck as well. We are seeing, third items potentially being completed for some of these players almost. What's really worrying now, particularly for Baby, is that the Baron, is on deck for AWE, and so's that Infernal Soul point in just over a minute's time. And once again, it's AWE have control of the river, so they've got to make a decision here. If they face check, it could be absolute disaster, because the Paranoia is already off cooldown, and they can't really fight in the jungle with no vision. So Slowbro is just continuing to press that advantage. He knows that it's exactly what they're worried about, so he's going to sit there top lane. They can converge on him, but they're giving up the soul point. It's more or less lose-lose for them right now, and AWE, they're capitalizing on it.
They're absolutely capitalizing on it. Slowbro really wise to the play, but Dax is so quick, and the flag and drag is going to land on Slowbro. 40 seconds till the strike. They're looking for the pick on Slowbro. Cataclysm comes down. Not quite going to find a curtain call, maybe for good measure, but overall, 2 ultimates expended, no kill found, and Yon's hitting the mid-inner. Antunes leave for a flank. Who knows who's being the one that's flanked here? Facebreaker not going to find a Riri. Antunes whiffing on that one, potentially ruining their team's opportunity to get to this Drake, as now Slowbro is back to shove it in that top side.
Yep, absolutely. And he's just chilling. He runs away, comes straight back, and that's 2 big cooldowns burn on the side of Baby. They have to face check this now. The Paranoia is still available. Seabold's going in too.
Yeah, and the Paranoia does come out onto that backline, on to the Jarvan, who tries to fight the Flying Dragon, but Yon, perfect ultimate usage is going to mean that the 3 members of Baby there to the fight are going to drop. Meanwhile, Slowbro still hitting on the top inhibitor turret as the Infernal Soul drops. There is absolutely nothing for Baby to get off of this play. The best they can do is try and salvage this inhibitor, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to, because this Hullbreaker Trundle is so tanky. Slowbro trying to look for some more. Hyakimaru right on top of him, going to stun him up. Jin W is through, and this troll is in trouble, being chased down very slowly, very surely. Eventually will be found. Meanwhile, Seaboard able to take that bot lane inhibitor all to himself. Mid lane inhibitor tower goes down, and I think AWE are going to be able to grab 3 inhibitors here, maybe just 2, but either way, Baby is in completely dire straits without some sort of big scaling threat to look towards. Honestly, P. Sweezy on the Zed been a little bit invisible this game. Not quite able to get it done so far. Will have to come up big if Baby want to make a comeback in this one.
We did mention at the start of the game, War Leader, that this is obviously a completely against the grain sort of style for Baby. Obviously, their top laner's off role in ADC. They've got a substitute top laner who's been doing his best. They've all been doing their best with the draft they've chosen, but it is harder to execute. There are just go buttons on the side of AWE that they have pressed time and again and made it happen time and again. And Dax can't do everything. He can't be everywhere. And yeah, P-Sweezy, he's not on his, he's not on a Corki, he's not on Lissandra, he's on a Zed, and the Zed hasn't really been the one for the time being. So that's an Infernal Soul going over at the end of the day. The Baron also is in the control of AWE. They have that Scuttle Crab, they have vision control of the river. There's only one inhib remaining. What can Baby do to salvage this? Is it down to a steal? Are AWE even going to let them have that opportunity? Do they just run it down the top lane? It looks like they might be looking at Baron.
Yeah, and I think as long as AWE maintain this 1-3-1 composition and their 3-man of a Riri, Yanyan, and Crim stay grouped, they should not be able to get picked off by the Zed, by the Jarvan, set, and if that win condition is met, AWE should be able to coast this one to victory. Really treading safely around this Baron. They don't want to end up giving it away. They know how much pressure Trundle has, and Trundle approaching the inhibitor is going to be the signal for AWE to go on this Baron. Baby are wise to the play, starting to walk over, and this could get really dicey steal. Meanwhile, Slowbro able to calmly win the 1v1 versus Cannon, going to be able to walk up and take the third inhib. Meanwhile, Curtain Call being channeled by Jin is going to stall the Baron, but it doesn't matter. Slowbro is taking that inhibitor, so even when AWE aren't able to get the objective, they are able to get the inhibitor. Now it is going to be a 5-man turn onto Slowbro. They're going to have to find this if they want to stop the Baron. Riri is approaching a play, and the Paranoia is out, looking for Slowbro, not quite going to find him. The team is just jointed. Flag and drag doesn't land. Dax is gone immediately and too short to follow. P-Sweezy caught too far forward and is going to get dropped by that hook from Mariri, Hyakimaru, and Jaffe, trying to go back to base, trying to think of some way that can clear all these minions, but it is for nothing. The 5-man army of AWE are marching into the base, and this game should end shortly. Parallel Convergence comes out, is going to find Hyakimaru, going to get popped immediately. Seaborg is dominating, but no longer. Shut down by Jaffe is going to be the last shot from that Jin this game. Make it a good one. AWE, strong showing in their final game of the season as they look to make a playoff push.
Amazing. And I want to go back for, I mean, that was a superb final sequence from AWE overall. And shout outs to Joshi if he's watching. I know he loves himself a little chess reference. That was basically they'd forked the Queen and Rook, yeah? They've got the inhib on lock, the third inhib, or they've got the Baron. They end up getting both. They end up pincering after Baby tried to respond to that in their jungle. Jump on them again. Beautiful from them. That's what they've been doing the whole game. And they drafted what they wanted. They executed it beautifully. They took advantage of the weaknesses that Baby had shown that we thought might be a problem for them, and they were. And that is going to say to Baby, you can't take any team in this playoffs lying down. Yes, everyone's locked in, but that is going to put them, I believe, into a third for the playoffs, and that is going to sit Art of War looking very comfortable. They're still down in 6, but it doesn't matter. They're looking real good now, looking confident for the next stage of playoffs.
Call me crazy, I think that this is a little foreshadowing of Nocturne becoming a meta pick. Very, very strong into a lot of the meta junglers, and buffs and nerfs coming through left and right on these next few patches. I really think Nocturne is going to come out ahead in terms of matchups, so really excited to see that Crims has picked that one up, and other teams are going to have to start to take notice of what AWE is doing, because they're starting to look monstrous, and taking a game off of Baby does set Baby back in terms of that race for the first seed. Baby now going to hope other games go their way if they want to secure that first or second seed. And to hear from the victorious AWE, we will be right back.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to Friendly Neighborhood Shoutcaster Shargan here on the interview desk with Art of War Slowbro. So, Slowbro, you've been kind of one of those guys who stuck around for a while. You took down Team Baby just now. How are you feeling, like, comparison to previous seasons with current season, how things have shaken up?
Well, I mean, obviously, back when we first started, I was in the Diamond League. And not only was I in the Diamond League, I won the Diamond League. So this is me transitioning into, a later stage of my life where I'm kind of becoming a boomer with my reactions.
Mm-hmm.
So that comes with its ups and its downs. But honestly, it's a lot of fun. Like that's at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for, right?
Absolutely, definitely. And then basically, like, how did you feel things went in that top lane against Yakimaru? Like, I know that Team Beat Boop was probably favored going into this, but you guys took them down pretty handily.
It was pretty frustrating early on. They put a lot of pressure into trying to set me behind, and they successfully did it for the most part. And then Kennen decided to disrespect me at one point when he was just trying to shove the lane, and then got solo killed. So that's a little awkward for him after all of that pressure. But aside from that, it was once I got my Hullbreaker and Tiamat going, then it was split pushes, expected. So that wasn't too bad.
Mm-hmm. And now you are officially into playoffs. So what is it you guys are expecting going into this? Because I know that it's like you guys you slipped right on in there, and now it's kind of like, what are your thoughts going into this? Like the whole bracket as it stands.
Well, I mean, if you had asked me that question several weeks ago, I didn't think we'd be here, right? I think we were like 0-9 at that time. So, or maybe not quite that bad. But
we were looking for that 7-7 win streak was what we were hoping for.
Yeah, we were. It was looking pretty dire at one point. But honestly, the team's coming together at the right time, right? There's no better time to come together. And even though we're a little lower in the standings than we'd like to see how far we can actually take it. And as we saw tonight, we can challenge the top teams in the league.
You definitely can. And you know what? Everyone loves an underdog story, and I think you guys are shaping up to be one. I mean, just look at the Mighty Ducks, first of all. Like, that is one example of a great underdog story. So you guys are definitely shaping up into that. Is there anything you want to say to the top teams as you guys are going into these playoffs?
Yeah, good luck, because they'll need it.
All right. With that, Slowbro, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We will be right back, folks. And keep an eye out on that rift, because things are about to get a little interesting. We'll be right back.